Have you ever heard the chilling story of the Russian sleep experiment? The concept makes us shiver. What happens to the human psyche when people refuse sleep, refuse reality? Ironically, this obsession with extreme limits found a dark replica on TikTok Live, where people pay to torment streamers into staying awake. However, one woman took this digital insanity to a more terrifying level, mixing true crime with live stream drama for money. Ash Trevino. She invited thousands to be a fly on the wall as she laughed, joked, and defended her imprisoned boyfriend, a man accused of the cold-blooded massacre of two teenagers, one just 13 years old, all over graffiti. Why was she laughing? How could she make $12,000 in 2 hours from this tragedy? And more worryingly, who is paying the real price for these live broadcasts? Get ready, because the line between entertainment and morality is about to collapse. Have you ever heard of the Russian sleep experiment? It's a fictional, chilling creepypasta story where 5 prisoners of war are promised freedom if they can stay awake for 30 full days, stimulated by a strange gas. Initially, they were fine. However, toward the middle of the month, the horror began. They became paranoid, whispering to each other, then screaming until their vocal cords tore. When the researchers finally opened the door, they discovered an unspeakable sight. The subjects had torn off and consumed their own flesh. The most terrifying thing? They did not want to be freed. They begged to go back into the chamber, asking for more of the stimulant gas.
"I must remain awake,"
they said. This is an addictive concept. What happens to the human psyche when they refuse sleep, refuse reality? And ironically, this horrifying concept found its replica in the strangest corner of the internet, TikTok Live. Welcome to the world of disturbed sleep live streams. There, in a small, neon-lit, bunker-like room, a live streamer pretends to sleep. But as soon as viewers donate with donations like Galaxy, Lion, or Rose, a loud noise or a balloon puppet suddenly pops up, forcibly waking them. Viewers pay to torture. They pay to disrupt sleep, to ruin peace. This is insane spectacle on the internet, a digital no man's land. Amidst this chaos, a woman emerged who brought this insanity to a more personal, darker level. Her name is Ash Trevino. Ash Trevino, a 36-year-old woman from Texas, quickly became one of the most perverse stars in the TikTok live sphere. Her content wasn't wild, not as strange as the man crying and begging viewers not to donate, or the person pretending to be a robot and slapping their face. Ash simply sat at her makeup desk, with a spotlight accentuating her look, and talked on the phone with her boyfriend. She invited thousands, even tens of thousands, of people to be a fly on the wall in her private life. And this generated money. Ash proudly claimed to have once made $12,000 in a single 2.5-hour live stream session. Viewers were fascinated by the raw, unscripted drama that, most importantly, sounded real. One of her most frequent prison boyfriends was Francisco. In one viral live stream, Ash playfully placed her phone near the camera. Francisco spoke from behind bars, his voice sounding cold and slightly menacing, as if he were talking to a group of jealous admirers.
I was just saying, I was just giving you share advice. Like, you want to take the time of your day to actually get to know me.
No, I don't need them to like you. I don't need them to like you, sir. Guys, he's innocent, and I don't care what y'all say, what y'all think. He's innocent.
However, the comments on the live stream began to turn sharp. Ash turned angry.
That's why it's funny, because y'all are sitting there making it seem like some man is fucking guilty of that when he had nothing to do with that. So that's why it's so funny, because y'all are blaming somebody that's innocent. Like, y'all don't even know the whole freaking story, bro.
The question echoed across the internet: who is Francisco, and what is the horrifying crime that Ash deems him innocent of? The story takes us back to a cold and terrifying night, March 28, 2018, at 9:30 p.m. A call came into the King County Sheriff: shots fired at a crowded apartment complex. When police arrived, chaos had already erupted. Residents were running in all directions, panicked and terrified. The police moved against the crowd, toward the source of the mayhem. On the pavement, beside the building, they found two motionless bodies soaked in blood. Elizabeth Horace, 13 years old, and Ivana Cortez, 19 years old. Two teenage girls, brutally murdered. Elizabeth, who was only 13, was even carrying a can of black spray paint in her bag. Above her body, the wall was adorned with graffiti, gang tags, symbols and acronyms of a street gang. The investigation revealed that Elizabeth, despite her very young age and loose involvement, was suspected of having an affiliation with the Southside Locos gang. The apartment complex was disputed territory. A rival gang, ULK, had just moved in and marked their territory with new graffiti. Elizabeth, in an act that was both naive and defiant, took her spray paint can and crossed out the ULK symbol, a direct threat in street law. Someone saw her. Tragedy was inevitable. Elizabeth was shot in the back of the head and her left thigh. Ivana Cortez, who happened to be there, had nothing to do with the gang conflict, and became an unintentional victim, shot 4 times in her stomach, leg, and left ear. Both died at the hospital. This was a heinous crime, a shooting spree fueled by trivial territorial conflict. And the man believed to be responsible? Francisco. Now, Ash Trevino's live streams became a subject of public fear and anger. How could she cackle about a tragedy like this? How could she date someone accused of such atrocities, and then broadcast it live on the internet? Ash claimed Francisco was innocent, but the evidence told a different story. 1 shell casings and DNA, 19 shell casings were found at the crime scene. Francisco's DNA was found on those casings. 2 weapons and armament. In Francisco's apartment, police found a revolver, a 9mm magazine matching the casings at the scene, a laser sight for a handgun, and loose ammunition. 3 digital admission. Francisco's phone contained messages, photos, and videos referencing the double homicide. 4 video at the memorial. Most damningly, a video was taken by Francisco at the memorial for both of his victims, just days after the murder. He reportedly said,
"Man, shows you the repercussions when you with a gaman. You already know what it is. ULK.
5 deadly message. Francisco's account responded to a message from another gang member who sent a photo of Elizabeth with the caption "RIP little one." Francisco's track record didn't stop there. He was already in prison for another murder, a victim from a rival gang. In total, he was linked to 3 separate murders, 4 assault cases, and 1 case of tampering with evidence/witness intimidation. The prosecutor noted, given the defendant's brutal course of conduct and disregard for human life, the defendant clearly presents a substantial likelihood of danger to the entire community. However, the danger didn't just come from behind bars. It came from Ash Trevino herself. Ash Trevino, nicknamed the inmate hopper by the internet, openly enjoyed dating men imprisoned for heinous crimes, and she flaunted these relationships publicly. Her shocked audience, the netizens, now united in one mission, reporting Ash to CPS, Child Protective Services. They feared for the safety of her two daughters, aged 16 and 13, who lived at home with her. Ash scoffed at the efforts in another live stream.
And y'all are really trying to get my kids taken from me, and it's not going to happen. Do you know how many CPS cases I've had on me in the last 4 months, and I still have custody of my kids?
Her claim to maintain custody, despite numerous reports, became her biggest flex, slipping through the cracks of CPS in the state of Texas. However, netizens began to gather actual proof. Lifestyle, nutrition experts even analyzed Ash's diet, which primarily consisted of hot Cheetos and bean dip. CPS looks for healthy, balanced food. What was Ash feeding her children? Dangerous environment. Most importantly, Ash willingly exposed her children to romantic relationships with a convicted serial murderer and a violent gang member. These relationships, along with the details of the crimes, were openly discussed at home and on live streams. Since the Russian sleep experiment case, we have been obsessed with what happens when people refuse sleep. But the Ash Trevino case highlights a darker obsession: what happens when people refuse moral and ethical boundaries for digital attention and money. Ash Trevino turned true crime, gang violence, and the murder of teenagers into money-making content. She intentionally brought the madness and danger that should have been locked behind bars into her daughters' lives. This is no longer just a digital creepypasta. This is real-life true crime broadcast live, where viewers are no longer paying to disturb sleep, they are passively witnessing, and even funding, the serious disturbance of the lives of two teenage girls trapped in the world of their mother's viral train wreck. The Ash Trevino case is a terrifying reflection of what the internet has done to our morality. Heinous crime becomes entertainment, and sympathy becomes a currency that can be cashed in. Viewers pay to hear the story of her lover, a man suspected of shooting a 13-year-old girl over graffiti. Today, Ash Trevino may still be live streaming, still talking to Francisco, still making money from tragedy. And we, the viewers, must ask ourselves, are we truly different from the researchers in the Russian sleep experiment? Are we also paying to witness the destruction of a soul for entertainment, piece by piece?